What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to Clown Questions, the show where there are no dumb questions. I'm your host, Matt K. Maurer, and the question on my mind today is, should we let the boys cockfight? Maybe the most ridiculous question I've ever opened this show with, but a fun one. I'll attempt to answer that question and a couple more. We'll do another Today in Sports History. Today is another mega show number 9. And mega show is just really just code for I've been lacking. I've been thinking about, maybe starting a new show. I just did start a new show, The King in His Court. But maybe a new show for myself. I don't know. I feel like maybe the clown question. I don't know. Maybe I'm tired of being a clown, or at least marketing myself as one. But yeah, another weird little show for y'all. It's been a minute, maybe 2 minutes, maybe 2 weeks. But yeah, it should be a show. So who's down to clown?
That's a clown question, bro.
So should we let the boys cockfight? There's 3 boys, well, really 3 men here that have been cockfighting. I'm okay with 2 of them, but one of them's on the Los Angeles Dodgers, so we should not let him cockfight, and we should actually suspend him. But yeah, there were 3 notable athletes kind of caught cockfighting. And no, I'm not talking about the San Francisco Giants. That sounds like a pointed thing at San Francisco. It's not. It's not what I'm trying to do. Go find the clip. The 3 San Francisco Giants outfielders celebrated after a game by humping each other. That has been banned. That's not the cockfight I'm talking about. They saw the MLB saw that celebration. They're like, yeah, can you not do that anymore? Please do not hump to celebrate a win. But yeah, come on, let the boys hump. But yeah, should we let the boys cockfight? The guys I'm talking about here are 2 jockeys and 1 closer. 1 closer for the Los Angeles Dodgers being obviously Edwin Diaz, and 2 jockeys who just competed in the Kentucky Derby, and I assume maybe one or both of them will be in the Preakness Stakes. I wouldn't know, but the King just did a Preakness pod, so go tune into that. He'll let you know. But yeah, 2 jockey brothers, Jose and Irad Ortiz, as well as MLB pitcher Edwin Diaz, have been found linked to, via social media images, to illegal cockfighting in Puerto Rico, a federal felony despite the 2019 ban, which has led to investigations so far have resulted in no disciplinary action. Jose Ortiz, 32, and Irad Ortiz, 33, appeared in social media photos holding roosters inside a cockfighting arena in Puerto Rico, according to USA Today Sports. Edwin Diaz, the Los Angeles Dodgers closer, was shown in Facebook posts wearing a Dodgers uniform promoting cockfighting tournaments at a Puerto Rico club. Why did he wear he was literally wearing his Dodgers uniform promoting this? That's kind of crazy. But yeah, I mean, they didn't do it in the US, so I don't know how the legals all work out there. Cockfighting had been legal in Puerto Rico, but I think they recently changed that law in 2019. But yeah, per USA Today, Edwin Diaz is linked to illegal cockfights. A quote from Edwin Diaz is right here. "It's legal in Puerto Rico, thank God. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here. I feel safe here. The cockfighting arena is like my home." That's crazy. He actually said the cockfighting arena is like my home. That's interesting. But yeah, again, I'm not mad at Irad or Jose. They're animal rights activists in their own right, as they ride horses. They know horses well. Jose just won the Kentucky Derby. Congrats to him. Congrats to Sherry DeVoe, the first ever female trainer to win the Kentucky Derby. But yeah, like I said, a federal ban on cockfighting took effect in Puerto Rico in 2019. But the Kentucky Horse Racing and Gaming Corporation investigated the Ortiz brothers after the posts, but they have decided not to take any disciplinary action. And again, awesome. Good on them. Don't think they should be disciplined. But discipline Edwin Diaz. The Dodgers are far too powerful. I know, suspending Diaz probably wouldn't make him that much less power. It'll probably move Roki Sasaki to closer, who was all of a sudden one of the best closers in the league in the playoffs last year, despite otherwise being a starter. But yeah, that's my message here. Let the boys cockfight, but suspend Edwin Diaz. To get back to maybe some Ortiz brothers, my question is, are horses soft these days? I'm going to get in trouble with the king for this one, but yeah, I think horses are soft these days. The aforementioned Jose Ortiz won the Kentucky Derby riding Golden Tempo, but Golden Tempo, again, first female trainer ever, Sherry DeVoe, led Golden Tempo to a Derby win, but Golden Tempo is not competing in the Preakness Stakes. Now, I did talk to the king on his podcast about, like, why are they doing that? Why doesn't anyone want to compete for the Triple Crown anymore? And he's like, well, there's only 2 weeks between the Derby and the Preakness. It's a different world of horse racing nowadays. But I don't know. To me, it sounds like horses nowadays are just soft. Back in my day, if you won the Kentucky Derby, you were guaranteed to go compete in the Preakness Stakes, and you would go after that Triple Crown. But evidently Golden Tempo, too soft, just taking their Kentucky Derby win and riding off into the sunset, pun intended there. But yeah, I want to apologize to the king. Sorry to disrespect today's horses, but I had to make my feelings known about Golden Tempo. Come on, Golden Tempo, you should have been in the Preakness, but you're soft. But if you want to hear more about the Preakness, go check out The King in His Court on all platforms except Twitter is King in His Court. But go check him out on YouTube, Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Podcast. The King takes down the Preakness, episode 3. He also talks a little bit of NBA playoffs, and I make an appearance on the podcast as well, not to brag. We do talk a little Packers draft as well. And speaking of the Packers, could the NFL be any more greedy? Apparently, yeah. Apparently they can, and that greed has been apparent with this newest schedule release. We knew this previously, but due to a game being played in Melbourne, Australia on a Thursday, the NFL is actually going to kick off on a Wednesday this year. I think the first time that's ever happened. I think maybe there's been one. Was there one Wednesday night football game during COVID with all that craziness? I think that was the Mike Tomlin. They're like, how do you feel about playing 3 games in 10 days? Is the famous quote. We do not care. We do not care. But yeah, so I guess second and third ever Wednesday night games that will be played. Like I said, the opener between the Patriots and Seahawks. That was a terrible decision for the opener, by the way. The Seahawks are going to rout them again. Mike Vrabel's head's not in the game. I talked about that on the last show. I don't need to get into Mike Vrabel's infidelity, but yeah, the NFL apparently can be more greedy. They got that opener on Wednesday, and now they already added a Black Friday game after Thanksgiving, which I was like, that's pretty good. Most people are hungover, food coma the day after Thanksgiving. A nice little NFL game at 3:00. It's not just the Egg Bowl, or is the Egg Bowl on Thanksgiving? No, I think the Egg Bowl is Friday. But no, what they did, which was incredibly greedy, kind of pissed me off. Not sure how it will affect my night, but Blackout Wednesday, they added a game. And this year, it just so happens to be Packers at Rams. I love my Packers, but I also love drinking and catching up with old friends. And I'm not going to be nearly as present in my drinking or my friendship when the Packers are playing a good team, playing a team that was 4 points away from a Super Bowl last year. But yeah, unfortunately, the NFL is getting greedier and greedier. There's more games on Netflix this year. They're even President Trump felt the need to chime in and be like, hey, some of these football fans can't afford all these streams. Thanks, Trump. Not to get political here, but yeah, the NFL is greedy as all hell. They always have been. They always will be. And unfortunately, me complaining about this does nothing. What would do something is me turning off my TV and not watching these games. But the NFL has me in a stranglehold. I don't miss a game. I watch every single game. The only games I miss are when they cut away from one game to another on NFL Red Zone. But yeah, apparently the increased ratings and the league's focus on holiday seasons might well lead to more games on non-traditional days in the future, NFL officials said Friday. I feel like that was grammatically incorrect, but that was I copied and pasted that from an article. But yeah, the NFL is king and is trying to be the Pope now because it's I don't know. I can complain all I want, but it does nothing unless I don't watch the game. And what one person can affect change. If you don't think so, you're wrong. One person can absolutely affect change. Probably not here though. NFL greedy, but I love it. What I don't love is how the Lakers went out. And I don't mean that to the players. So LeBron played great. Austin Reeves kind of finally showed up more than he had. I mean, he was coming off injury, but he played well. Who didn't play well, or rather who didn't coach well, was JJ Redick. Again, it was a valiant effort, and we got smoked in the first 3 games. In the last game, we didn't get smoked. We lost by 4 or something. It was a closer game. But the conclusion of this game has me asking, was JJ Redick smoking crack? Was JJ Redick smoking crack? I feel like Stephen A. Smith talking to Max Kellerman about the Lakers GM. His first move was to sign Lamar Odom, who was on crack. JJ Redick, unfortunately, might have been on crack. Either that or he bet on Thunder money line, because why would he bench Rui Hachimura down 3 points? He benched Rui Hachimura for Maxi Kleber, who hadn't played all game. He brought in Kleber cold off the bench, doing that to replace a guy who is the all-time leader in three-point percentage in NBA playoff history. That is coaching malpractice. That should be a fireable offense. And yes, if you didn't hear that right, it's a crazy stat. I didn't believe it at first either, but Rui Hachimura, in terms of three-point percentage, ranks first all-time in NBA history. He shoots over 50%. What was he shooting in this game, you might ask? 50%. I believe he was 4 for 8 before he got benched. He didn't get a chance to get that last shot off. And again, I think Redick's a good coach. I don't actually think he should be fired for this, but what possible explanation could he give us for that bullshit? I mean, fuck. That's $2. That is $2 for the F-bomb jar that were wasted on just a disgusting decision by JJ Redick here. Again, we're not winning the series, but maybe we would have won the game. We were down 3, 12 seconds to go or something like that, and you take out your best three-point shooter. Maxi Kleber finished that game officially logging 0 minutes on the stat sheet. I think he played for 6 seconds. And then guess who he got pulled for? Rui. Oh, man. I couldn't be more pissed. And there might have been a reason to do it. You might put in Kleber for rebounding, but it's like there's 12 seconds left. You need to make the shot. But yes, sure, you put him in for rebounding. Even if that's your reasoning for putting him in, Rui Hachimura is still the last guy that you bench in that spot. Even if the play was drawn up for Reeves, which it was, and I don't mind that. Reeves was playing well. He's one of our best shooters, other than Rui, other than Luka, who didn't play in the series. But even if the play was drawn up for Rui, even if you wanted Kleber in for rebounding, you have to have Rui in there. Even if he's not taking the shot, have him in there as a decoy. It's just terrible. Just terrible, to quote Charles Barkley. But whatever. I mean, we still would have lost the series in 5 if we had tied it up and pulled that game off in overtime or whatever. But I still need an explanation. And I think crack. I think crack is the only explanation. JJ Redick was smoking crack. NBA drug test him, or at the very least, use a fine tooth comb and look through his DraftKings account, because I don't know what the fuck he was doing. Speaking of DraftKings, he's costing me even more money, but that's $3 for the F-bomb jar, which is getting full. I need to work out some change, see how much money is in there. Speaking of change, are the Bucks fine? Well, if you've heard any of this show, if you follow the Bucks at all, they're probably not fine. They didn't do great in the lottery. They end up with the 10th pick. Been hearing LeBaron Philon Jr., which would be Philon, excuse me. I think that would be a great pick, but they really wanted to get into that top 5. They didn't have good odds to do it, and they stand pat at 10 there. But yeah, the NBA had been investigating the Bucks because of the he said debate between the Bucks and Giannis. Giannis saying, "I want to play, they're not letting me." The Bucks said, "Giannis wants to play, but he's hurt, so we're not letting him." The NBA investigation apparently concluded, and the investigation determined that no further action is warranted. But that's not what I'm here to talk about with this question. I'm here to talk about one of the Bucks, Miles Turner. Miles Turner's comments on the Game Recognized Game podcast with Breanna Stewart. That's such a random podcast. I don't know what the link between Breanna Stewart and Miles Turner is, but they co-host a podcast. Great name for a podcast, by the way. Game Recognized Game. I love that. But Miles Turner, I guess he's not worried about it. He's got 3 more years left on his $100 million contract, but he was kind of putting the Bucks on blast. Not just Doc Rivers, but other teammates and Giannis specifically. But yeah, Breanna was talking to him, and this is a direct quote from Miles Turner. "Bro, we literally, if the plane took off at 2 o'clock, we weren't leaving until 4:30. I'm being so serious, bro. It was crazy. Guys were hours late to the plane." I added the second hours. "It got to the point where I just knew not to show up until like an hour after they said the plane was taking off. It was crazy." Breanna Stewart asked, who was the biggest infringer of this? Turner had one name on the tip of his tongue. "That's easy. Giannis," he said. Giannis is the guy who was late. I don't know. I think Giannis wants to stay, but there's certain things that make you think maybe not. But yeah, he said Giannis is going to show up whenever he wants, really, I think that it kind of just came with the territory. And once I saw what was going down, I was like, hey, man, more power to you. They ain't going to fine you. Do what you do. And that was why I asked, are the Bucks fine? They're not getting fined by the NBA, and they're not getting fined for showing up late to the plane, which is a very common thing to do if your players are late. The plane's taken off 2 hours late. I mean, it's ridiculous. But yeah, no, Turner said ex-coach Doc Rivers, who has since retired. Happy retirement, Doc, by the way. He said Doc Rivers didn't fine anyone ever. Guys were showing up to film whenever they wanted to show up. Guys were missing meetings. It was one of the craziest things I've personally ever experienced, Turner said. And he also said that, other teams he had been on did fine players for doing this. So I talked about coaching malpractice with JJ Redick, coaching malpractice with Doc Rivers. I think Bucks fans have wanted him out for a while, and yeah, he retired. So yeah, they got that new old Grizzlies coach, Taylor Jenkins. I think he'll do a good job. But yeah, I hope Giannis sticks around. But yeah, the Bucks might not be fine, and they're definitely not getting fined at all, according to Miles Turner. Miles, why are you putting Giannis on blast like that? Rivers is out of there, so maybe put Rivers on blast a little bit, but why'd you have to name Giannis there? I don't know. Maybe Turner wants the front court all to himself or something, but yeah, who knows? I'm rambling. This is a mega show, but this show is going to be short. I don't know. I got to get back into the swing of things. Like I said, I'm considering making a brand new show. Maybe it'll be similar to this new segment that I've done twice now in both of the last shows, both mega shows. But yeah, I'm going to end the show out with the segment Today in Sports History. Today in Sports History. So today in sports history in 1906, what is it? May 15th. Sometimes I forget what the date is. Usually I do. May 15th, 1906, New York Giants pitcher George Hooks Wiltse strikes out 4 Reds batters in 1 inning as a catcher dropped a third strike. That's pretty remarkable. I was like, how do you strike out 4 guys and what you drop the third strike and the guy takes first base? That's impressive. That's some Jacob Mizorowski shit right there. In 1912, May 15th, Ty Cobb rushes a heckler at a New York Highlander game and is suspended. That's I've heard people say, well, okay, I've been told not to quote other podcasts, but it's such a good podcast. Pardon my take. Big Cat said there should be a rule where NBA players can fight 1 fan a year. You can fight 1 heckler. So Ty Cobb was 110 years early on that rule, although the rule was not legal and he did get suspended for rushing the heckler, which, obviously he should be. That was the OG Malice at the Palace. May 15th, 1918, Washington Senator Walter Johnson pitches a 1-0 18-inning game. He pitched a 18-inning shutout? That is ridiculous. I had to Google this because I didn't believe it at first. I think there was another pitcher in that game, Lefty Williams, who did give up the one run, but he also pitched 18 innings. That is ridiculous. If pitchers did that today with their velocity, their arms it'd be like brisket. The meat on their arm would just fall right off the bone. But yeah, very impressive for Walter Johnson. 18-inning shutout is ridiculous, but not quite as ridiculous as what started on May 15th, 1941. New York Yankees Joe DiMaggio started his 56-game hitting streak, now an MLB record, with the only RBI in a 13-1 loss to the visiting Chicago White Sox. Obviously a very impressive record, 56 games in a row with a hit. And yeah, that's all I got for you today in sports history. And I'm going to end the show as I do with a question relating to Joe DiMaggio's historic 56-game hitting streak. And I'll start by telling you the answer, yes. Is that the most unbreakable record in sports history?